Welcome. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us here today. My name is Bob Visnick. I'll be moderating this debate. I am only an honorary citizen of Gloucester, so I live in that far-off village of Rockport. This forum this evening is presented by the Greater Cape Ann Chamber of Commerce, its Government Affairs Council. The mission of the Chamber is to provide leadership and advocacy to foster a thriving local economy and enhance the quality of life for our region. Presenting these forums supports our role as a voice for the business community and strengthens civic engagement to ensure voters are informed about the issues. The event tonight is being recorded and live streamed by 1623 Studios. And I think it's going to be shown also on Comcast Channel 8. I would encourage all of you to participate in our democracy and vote at the primary on September 16th. And for the regular election, which is on November 4th. I will now take a few moments and explain the format of tonight's debate to the candidates in the audience, including the ground rules. Of course, it need not be said that this will be a civil conversation without interruption, and we will adhere as best we can to the timing. And so in a moment, we're going to do a random drawing to determine the speaking order for the first question. And I believe we're ready to do that right now. Here we go.
Exciting time.
All right. We are back on. We've had a very scientific determination of the order of presentation, and it will be Greg Verga going first, and Jeff Worthley second, and Paul Lundberg third. And so we're going to then rotate the questions equitably between the candidates, allowing each a chance to go first, second, and last. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer the question and 30 seconds for follow-up after all have given their initial answers. Colleen Murdoch has graciously agreed to track the time and to alert me when the time limits are approaching. At my sole discretion, we'll give time for additional elaboration. Each candidate will, at the termination, will be given 2 minutes to make a closing statement, and that order will be reversed from the order I just presented to you. I anticipate there'll be time for about 6 questions, but we have additional questions if the time allows. And our Government Affairs Council has developed these questions. I will now read the bios of the candidates. Paul Lundberg. Paul Lundberg grew up in Gloucester and is a graduate of Gloucester High School. He was elected to the Gloucester City Council as Councilor at Large in 2013 and finished his 3rd term in 2019, serving as City Council President. He previously served the city for 6 years on the Planning Board, 2 years as chairperson. In 2020, Paul led the ballot initiative, Vote Yes for Gloucester Kids, where Gloucester voters approved the $66 million bond to build East Veterans School. Paul's grandfather emigrated from Sweden to Gloucester to work in the granite quarries and became Gloucester City Assessor. Paul's father was a longtime doctor at Addison Gilbert Hospital and served as chair of Gloucester's Board of Health. Paul earned a master's degree of business administration from Northwestern University in Chicago. His business career has been in the railroad industry. He began as a conductor on the freight trains and continued as chief labor negotiator and chief operations manager for the Chicago and Northwestern Railway and Rail America, among other companies, including Boston's commuter rail system. In his civic life, Paul served for 10 years as a trustee of Addison Gilbert and Beverly Hospitals, where he chaired the Quality and Patient Experience Committee. Paul has also served as a board member of the Sawyer Free Library and Wellspring House. Greg Verga. Greg has been mayor of Gloucester since January 1st of 2022 and won re-election 22 months ago. He and his wife Kelly live in West Gloucester and have 3 adult children, along with 2 grandchildren now attending Gloucester schools. He is a graduate of Gloucester High School and earned his bachelor's degree in communications from Salem State College. Mayor Verga is a passionate believer in the power of local government to change residents' lives for the better. Since taking office, he has implemented, championed, or supported initiatives that have brought about tangible improvements for Gloucester, including city services, streets and thoroughfares, buildings and institutions, easier access to public information, and 5-year budget projections for smarter fiscal planning. The mayor's first 2 terms have produced record investments into Gloucester Public Schools, including major upgrades to school buildings and an expanded vocational program. The city has maintained a balanced budget and an AA bond rating throughout this span and has offset municipal electricity usage by over 70% with renewable energy. Mayor Verga has previously served Gloucester for 8 years on the school committee, followed by 6 years as a member of the city council. Jeff Worthley. Jeff is a lifetime Gloucester resident, financial business owner for 15 years, Gloucester homeowner for 23 years, and father of 2 children in the Gloucester Public Schools. Voters have elected Jeff to the Gloucester City Council 4 times, and he is completing his 8th year of service to our community. Jeff understands the issues that the city and its residents face, and he is committed to making Gloucester a better place to live, learn, and work. He listens to the concerns of the community and delivers results. And now we shall begin. And so this first question will go, the order will be Mr. Verga, Mr. Worsley, and Mr. Lundberg. Here we go. Downtown revitalization. Please share your vision on how you would work to preserve and further the revitalization of Gloucester's downtown and its villages, including Magnolia, Lanesville, and Rocky Neck. Specifically, how would you combat the rise in vacant storefronts? And what policies or programs would you implement to make it easier for small businesses to start, operate, and grow in Gloucester, and to make the city more business-friendly? What creative ideas do you have to make Gloucester more welcoming and accessible to residents and visitors to support and encourage shopping and dining locally?
We've done, can you hear me okay?
We can. Thank you.
So I'll talk about what we've actually done, and we have focused quite a bit on the downtown and all of our businesses. One thing we've done, vacant storefronts is sort of the worst thing that any downtown wants to see. And the best example we have is the former CVS building, which sat vacant for a few years. And we worked very closely with the new owners of what's now the Cut. We sat down with them, talked about what their ideas were, and tried to work out ways that we could help get their project off the ground. And one was offering them a TIF. And that TIF, which really, quick tutorial of what a TIF is, basically we're giving them a discount on whatever new real estate tax would be on their project after they finished from what it was before they started. And so we have a very reasonable TIF. I believe theirs over the course of the TIF was about, it was less than $90,000 that we were cutting. But what that enabled them to do was go to the state to get a 7-figure grant from the state of Massachusetts to get their project off the ground. And if people have not been to the Cut, they should stop by because it is a great spot downtown and it's providing many jobs. That's the key component of a TIF. It has to be related to job creation. Some of the other things we're looking at is trying to increase some housing on the second floors. Right now we have zoning that allows for mixed use residents on the top floors and commercial on the first floor. There's a new program through Mass Housing called the Commercial Conversion Initiative. Thanks, Bob. That's something we're looking into. That gives planning resources, not necessarily money to build these units, but that's just one way we're looking to do it. So I'm out of time, but we'll talk more about that as we move along.
Thank you. Jeff?
Thank you, Bob, and thank you to the Cape Ann Chamber of Commerce, and thank you to my 2 colleagues in this race. If we were in person, we'd be shaking hands or fist bumping or elbow bumping, and I think that I've committed myself, and we all have committed to a positive campaign. And I'm not going to spend any time knocking any of the good work that either of my opponents have done. I also want to take note that today is the 24th anniversary of September 11th. And if we remember how close our community was, we had Gloucester firefighters and police officers going to New York to try to help save some lives. And our country and our community came together. And so I want to make sure that this campaign and everybody's campaign is about bringing our city together. And that's my commitment. Specifically about downtown revitalization. I could spend a long time listing all the things that I've done to support downtown. When I worked with the Chamber of Commerce, we initiated the Gloucester Gift Certificate Program, which has returned about $1 million into the Gloucester local economy that would have gone to some other city or town. We've got the lights in the trees. We started the block parties. It started out simply as a Friday night event. We had musicians on the street and brought some vitality to downtown. I was very proud to be the first person to work with a number of volunteers to build the very first lobster trap tree. And that's also in its 24th year, going to be 25th year. And we talk about off-season attention to downtown. That certainly has brought a lot of focus, positive focus to downtown. It's been a very civic-minded event. I would start by saying quality of life starts with access to a good job. Access to a good job comes from a good public education. And so I think our commitment to public education will do a lot to actually start with revitalizing our business community so that people coming out of Gloucester schools have the best chance they can, whether it be in a field of work or in college, specifically to things we can do to improve downtown. I lobbied hard, not knocking the mayor on this one, but I lobbied hard to start with getting the lights fixed in the trees downtown. We were able to get the lights out, the broken lights, and we haven't got them back in yet. That creates an ambiance. It creates a feeling of safety. That's something we could do very simply. Day one, $5,000, we can get lights in the trees, and that'll make a difference. Access to downtown.
You run out of time, but we can hear further from you during the rebuttal period.
Okay, thank you.
Paul? Paul is muted. You need to unmute yourself.
There we go. Sorry. Thank
beautiful.
you. Thank you to the chamber.
I can breathe again.
Yes, you can. And thank you to the chamber for doing this. This is such an important part of our election process, is giving the voters a chance to see all three candidates at the same time. Specifically to the question about downtown revitalization, I think there are many things that a city can do, but the most important thing that the city can do is understand the business model of the downtown business folks. And that requires a lot of communication with them, because they are very creative entrepreneurs, and small business owners, but they don't have the time to do the planning and the overall infrastructure creation that they need to make that the downtown a cohesive place. It's not just a collection of many small businesses. It is a destination. And that is what will attract people to our city. In addition to that, we can help them with their business plans by saying that they don't have to worry about the things that lead into their business, the sidewalks, the streets. Jeff mentioned the trees and the lights. All those things go together to create a business atmosphere. But the first thing that the city needs to do, and that a mayor needs to do, is understand their businesses, their business pressures. And those are the things that I will bring to the table as mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Verga, any additional time you would like?
Sure, no rebuttal, but I'll take the additional time. So when I was talking about the residences, Bob, people might say, what the heck does that have to do with business? It's because people downtown brings vitality to downtown. So people living there are more likely to frequent the shops, and they bring in their friends and family to see them and to visit the shops. Another thing we've been working on for a long time and will be unveiling soon is our wayfinding system, which will help basically show people the way from Rogers to Main and from Main to Middle Street and back and forth, from our work in waterfront to the businesses along Main Street. So we have not stopped working on this, and we are going to put it forward in the coming weeks, and we're going to help our businesses thrive.
Thank you. And Jeff?
Yes, I'd like to continue. And Paul touched on it a little bit. Downtown businesses are not just the buildings, they're people. They're getting their kids to school, they're taking care of elderly parents, they're dealing with their own health issues, and they don't have the time to manage downtown. The city, in my opinion, has really dropped the ball in a lot of cases, whether it be plowing or shoveling or those sorts of things. I think we should work on something like getting a parking garage downtown. I put that forward in the city council when I first started, and I requested the mayor support it. He said not only would he not put staff on it, he would veto it if it passed the council. It didn't even get to the light of day. We need to find places for people to park. We also need to stripe the lines downtown. People are parking as best they can, and they don't
We've
always.
reached the end of the time on that one.
We could spend hours on downtown, I'm sure. Thank you.
I'm a tough timekeeper.
That's good.
Okay, Paul.
So I'll use my 30 seconds to give you a snapshot of my vision. Downtown is quite an incredible asset. We have a main street that's historic on the one hand. We have a harbor on the other. There are very few small businesses that are located in a location like that. It is up to the city to create the vision that brings those two things together. That's what's unique about Gloucester, and that's what will bring year-round visitors to our town.
Thank you. And this next question is somewhat related, and the order will be Mr. Worthley, Mr. Lundberg, and Mr. Verga. Here we go. Talking about tourism, Gloucester has long been a destination for both regional and international tourism, attracting visitors for our beautiful coastline and our vibrant arts culture. How would you promote Gloucester as a year-round destination without overburdening local infrastructure and residents during peak season? And what investments would you make in visitor amenities?
Thank you. So there's a lot we can do. When I worked for the Chamber of Commerce, there were artists who needed services that we couldn't provide. So I started an organization with Joanne Castano called Sea Arts, the Society for the Encouragement of the Arts. It's been a robust, successful organization to provide services for artists, but there's a lot more that can be done. As far as balancing tourism and growing that, especially in the off season, and balancing it with the local needs, if we were to grow the off season, it wouldn't impact the locality, the local residents as much, because there isn't the same demand as there is during the summer. I led the charge for the beach parking reservation program that really alleviated the traffic issues in East Gloucester and West Gloucester near Good Harbor Beach and Wingersheek Beach. And one of the things I wanted to add to that, and I brought it up 3 years ago, the mayor's office said, we'll do 1 year at a time, and then we'll add those things into it, is I wanted to make it so that if someone gets a beach reservation, they can also click here for local attractions, click here for discounts on, different, maybe it's a boating cruise, or maybe it's a dinner or something like that. Or for people who couldn't get a reservation, here are the other things that you could do in Gloucester that don't just relate to going to the beach. There's a mechanism that we have access to thousands of people a day who want to come to our beaches, that we could use that to leverage and connect them with downtown and for businesses. As far as balancing the coastline, artists, I think there's room for more if we could spread it out through the off season. I mentioned the lobster trap tree. Tens of thousands of people come to Gloucester to see this beautiful creation, and it should be on Main Street. That's where it was for a while. We had to move it during the renovation, and I'd love to see it back there again. I want to go back to one other thing about downtown. We don't have enough cruise ships coming here. Every time a cruise ship comes, they drop about $100,000 into the local economy. Those are walking wallets. There's no traffic, there's no parking. We should have a front row seat at every one of the conventions where people are thinking about where we can have different cruise ships come, and Gloucester should be the top destination. And I'm proud that we got that started. There's a lot more we can do there.
Thank you. And Mayor Verga.
No, I think
Paul.
I think it's my turn.
Yeah, I can't read my own writing.
That's
My
okay.
wallet started to walk, and I
listen,
had to chase it a little bit. So
We'll make it work.
okay.
So one of the challenges that we've touched on it already, is seasonality. We do have a beautiful coastline, and it is by its nature seasonal in terms of the people who want to come here and visit. People want to come here, go to the beach, get out on the water, and that only happens for a few months a year. So how do we make a seasonal tour attraction into more of a year-round attraction? One of the ways that we're doing it now, and it's a great example, and we can build on that, is what Maritime Gloucester has done. Maritime Gloucester is the epitome of a seasonal attraction. It's a wharf, it's got beautiful ships, and it is, thrives in the summertime. But they've done something different. They've done the year-round thing. They've become an educational institution. Education is year-round. Education of our maritime heritage can be year-round, just like celebrating the arts is a year-round thing. Those are two things that we already do, but we need some vision and leadership to help these entities do that even better. But the models are there, and we can find a way to help broaden the seasonality of our town to increase our tourism.
Thank you. Okay, we have additional time for those who would like it.
I didn't get my shot.
Okay, oh, there we go. Sorry.
Okay,
You
thank
have
you.
your time. That
Thank
was
you.
just a test.
Thanks, Bob. So ideally, Gloucester should be a 365-day-a-year destination. And things that we do, we encourage, for instance, the Apple TV show that was shot here and it continues to be shot here. Things like Coda, and of course, people still coming to visit because of the perfect storm. Things like that have put us on the map. Some people have been quoted as saying tourism is not sustainable, which is unfortunate to have an attitude like that because so many businesses, restaurants, shops depend on and lodgings depend on that revenue in those 3 months in the shoulder season, which we want to expand beyond. The fact that my administration actually got the work done for the beach reservation system. We didn't just think about it, we actually put it into practice, which basically evaporated the beach gridlock overnight. And on the beach reservation system, there is indeed a link to Discover Gloucester. So people who are coming to town have everything at their fingertips that they can do for all things Gloucester. And Gloucester's partnership and funding of Discover Gloucester is what is helping bring the analytics show that we are growing and people are finding us and they are coming here and they are spending their dollars and they are making our shops, our restaurants, and our lodgings so much more viable.
Thank you. Jeff, you want additional time?
Sure. I'll take 10 seconds to correct the record. Mr. Verga, you said when you came in office that this was already in motion before you took office. It was in motion because a number of volunteers that I led worked tirelessly for a course of a year to do a presentation, and my name is on it, before the mayor, before the Ordinance Administration Committee, and before the City Council. There's a date stamp on that presentation. It wasn't just an idea. It was also, here's how you do it. It took a little while. Then the incumbent mayor at the time lost the election, and it was handed over to you. It was ready to go. But I took my time and volunteers took their time to piece that together and lay it out. And we're proud of it. And we should all be proud of the collaboration and not take credit for it falling in your lap as something that was already done and in place. Now, the last thing I want to
you're done with time, so we'll have to move on.
Okay.
Mr. Lundberg.
Yeah, just to highlight that kind of a concept. I mean, the only way we are successful as a city is through collaboration. And the key to collaboration is giving credit where credit is due, not taking credit for something that you didn't do. So one of the things that I have learned in my management career is empowering the employees and empowering all the people who work on a project to take credit for it themselves. And that's what I will do as mayor, because that's how you inspire creativity. And the collaboration is the way to do it, not taking credit for something you didn't do.
Thank you. Mr. Verga?
Well, I'm not going to belabor the fact about who deserves credit for what. All I know is it got done, it's made a difference, and it will continue to make a difference. Gloucester's a destination. People are going to come here for the beaches in the summer, and we want them coming here for Christmas lights in the winter. So we're going to do it together for another 2 years.
Thank you. Okay, the order for this next question is Mr. Lundberg, Mr. Verga, and Mr. Worthley. Mayor, as CEO, one of your many responsibilities as mayor is overseeing the fiscal management of the city's budget, with many competing needs, including increased wage and insurance costs, growing demands to address our aging infrastructure, and looming threats to federal funding. How do you plan to prepare to maintain existing services, and how would you prioritize these competing needs? Paul?
Right. So, so a very important part of the mayor's job is as city manager. The mayor is the city manager, the mayor is the city leader, and importantly, the mayor is a member of the school committee. So the mayor's job is really three jobs. And the city manager part, the part that you just described, Bob, is critical to us surviving and to being able to do all the things we need to do. We have the required services like fire, police, DPW. Those things need to be funded. We know the level of activity that we have to make our city safe and to comply with all the millions of regulations that cities have to comply with. So how I would do the budgeting is exactly how we did it in the private sector. You set a goal for your customer service goals. You set that goal then drives what infrastructure you need to create it. And then you look at the revenue stream. Our revenue stream is pretty well defined. It's defined by Proposition 2.5. It's defined by the value of the real estate in our town. So we know what it is. And we know which pressure points are in terms of our expenses are ones that we absolutely have to have, maybe have to have, and some that would be nice to have. That conversation needs leadership but to bring the public along so that we can all decide together how we spend that money. It's not limitless, and we have good times and bad times, just like we all have experienced. Those of us who have been in city government when there hasn't been enough, or when there's been more than enough, and that just takes good, solid management skills to make sure that the budget stays stable.
Thank
you. Mr. Verga.
Sure. This year was an example of one of the tough years. You'll recall in the previous budget, FY25, we had to cut the school department by $2 million. This year, we held all of the city side of the budget to a 0% increase, meaning a level funded budget, not level service. A level funded budget is, by virtue of its name, a cut because there are fixed costs that go up, contractual obligations, insurance, other fixed costs. And we, found some creative solutions to meet those zeros. Some came in a little bit less, some came in a little bit over. But overall, we focused this year on the schools. They got a 5.32% increase in their budget. It is always a moving target. It's squeezing the balloon. It's balancing the needs of the entire city. That's the main job of the mayor. I'm not the mayor of the school committee. I'm not the mayor of the fire department. I'm not the mayor of the DPW. I'm the mayor of the city of Gloucester. And so I have to look at every budget and what is the fairest, most equitable way that we can do it. And we have big cuts to make. In the past, it was closing fire stations. We've avoided that. And that's our goal, is to keep the stations open, keep the core city services that people expect and deserve functioning the way they're supposed to. So we've worked to try to bring new revenue with growth, as it's known, when there's new development in the city. But you have to balance that with the desires and preferences of the public, because big projects come with big opposition usually. So we have to make sure as we move forward, people understand the projects and get behind them, and urge the developers to work with the relevant, the abutters or whoever else is, to get buy-in, because we cannot continue to grow as a city, and I mean just growing as we move forward, if we can't grow the revenue to support that city that's growing.
Thank you. Mr. Worthley.
Thank you. It's going to be tough to fit this all in the next minute or two. When I came on as a city councilor, the same time Mayor Verga came on as mayor, he and the council inherited a $5.5 million surplus. That means the prior administration had been very close to cutting the line closely and saving money. The following year, it was a $4.8 million surplus and a $4.2 million surplus. Add to that, we had $23.5 million in federal funds from ARPA, and a golden opportunity to really move the needle on services and providing for the city of Gloucester. A week before the teacher strike, and I think this is a very important part of the role as mayor, as CEO, you have to be an honest and a viable communicator. He said that we had a $4 to $7 million deficit, and that if we paid the teachers, we'd have to cut teachers. Well, after the review, we had $4.2 million surplus. So I don't know how in a month that $8 million deficit, $7 million deficit just eviscerated, but I think the communication is a real important thing. I also led the charge to try to have an audit done of all of our departments as required by our charter. Our charter requires an audit of every department once every 8 years. The last department that was audited was a 3-person department, the harbor master. The mayor wants to audit the harbor master's office again, but it's been 20 plus years since we've audited the schools. This audit isn't a got you or try to find a smoking gun. It's to try to see if all the money is being spent efficiently. Why do we have 2 different IT departments? Why do we have 2 different legal departments? Why do we have 2 different payroll departments, a school one and a city one? Why do we have all these directors of curriculum that aren't even in the classroom? And when you look at it, if there's an opportunity to save a penny, we should. Now, I led the charge. Let me say, now I requested the mayor initially to see if we can get the lights shut off at West Parish School. He said it was a school issue. The school said it was a DPW issue. I said it's a mayoral issue. Second year, made the same request. I decided to take it on myself, looked at 8 years of bills, and realized we were losing about $25,000 a year because we couldn't shut the lights off. That's real money. And so I made a public push. And then a couple of days later, the DPW director got the work done because the mayor signed off on the $5,000 purchase order.
Thank
So
you,
that's
Jeff.
leadership. And I want to
We'll have
continue with that.
additional time in a few moments.
Thank you.
Okay, back to you, Paul, if you want additional time.
Sure. Just one thing that is important to remember in terms of management. The mayor mentioned that he had to cut the school budget $2 million. That's incorrect. He didn't have to do that. He could have balanced the budget by taking into account the absolute mission of the educational mission of the schools, as well as all of the other missions. And saying that we had to cut the schools, I think misses the point. The point is collaboration and understanding what is important in our city. Cutting $2 million from the schools is not something that is a good idea when there are ways to manage the schools to increase our educational excellence.
Thank you. Greg, back to you.
Sure. I mean, I can understand how not being in the mayor's office day to day, it's easy to oversimplify what's going on. But the fact of the matter is, had the teachers and paras been given what they originally asked, we would have had a $3 million cut necessary in this current fiscal year. We're talking fire stations, firefighters, police, and others, and even teachers and paras to make that number work. So we had very open processes. The Budget and Finance Committee, which Jeff sits on, had several long hour sessions of every budget every department's budget come through them in public format, which are available for people to review on Zoom. But squeezing the balloon is an exercise, and being Solomon is not a fun job, but someone's got to do it, and it's easy to talk about it and what you would or wouldn't do. I had to do what had to be done, and here we are.
Mr. Worthley?
So if we want to get really specific and challenge that, the additional cost for the school department because of the raise that was finally settled was $380,000. Not $3 to $4 million, $380,000. And guess what? We had the money. If we had gone with the original proposal, we would have had the money because we had a $4.2 million surplus, not a $7 million deficit. So communicating, this isn't just about what you would have or could have done. Those were numbers you were saying in real time. In fact, the day you made that statement, I called the auditor and said, how are we having a $7 million deficit when we had a $4 million surplus? He said, I don't know what numbers he's looking at. So it's creative to say that's what it was then and what it would be now. Before that, you proposed cutting arts in the schools. My daughter came home from school in tears. She's involved in the choir. She was in 7th grade at the time, the choir, band, and a drama club. All her friends were trying to think
Thank
of
you,
ways
Jeff.
that
We've
we
run
can
out
raise.
of time on this, but maybe you can sneak it in at a different time.
I'll try.
Because you're actually first for this next question.
Okay.
So it'll go to you, it'll go to Mr. Lundberg, and then Mr. Verga. Coastal resilience and climate action planning. As a result of climate change, we continue to experience increasing threats to our city. And without resorting to the use of nuclear weapons, how will you ensure Gloucester's downtown infrastructure can withstand flooding, severe storms, and sea level rise while remaining accessible to residents and tourists? And how will you help local businesses prepare for and recover from climate-related disruptions?
Thank you. When I worked at the Chamber of Commerce, there were a number of disasters, a couple of fires, and I worked very closely with those business owners to work with MEMA, Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency, and FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. So I have those contacts and I know how to help those people if needed. But let's get to a point where we don't need those things. People forget that the breakwater, when it was created many, many years ago, was supposed to have another breakwater coming from the western side, from Western Ave. That didn't get done. There was money lined up to do that. A breakwater there would reduce the surges that are happening, and the wind and the currents have shifted. So now that the currents come in, they bounce off of the Stagefort Parkside and go back to Eastern Point. So we're finding that there is flooding and there is damage that's being done to our docks and our wharfs and our infrastructure because of the rising tides and rising sea level. I'm not a denier at all that this is happening. That's why I put forward the very first in the state renewable energy ordinance. It will not solve the problem, but it can help towards that. This renewable energy ordinance requires any city building that's putting money into it, whether it be a purchase or renovation, to require it to go through the Clean Energy Commission and see if it makes sense to have wind turbine, residential wind turbine, or solar panel. And the mayor opposed it. He said, we're already doing it. And I posed a question, then why aren't there solar panels on the new school building for the last 4 years? Why aren't there solar panels on the senior center building, which we just put $600,000 into a roof? Why isn't there panels on the new DPW roof? All these are opportunities to reduce our costs for residents, set an example on how we can lead not only our community, but the world, think globally, act locally, and also to reduce our carbon footprint. And I was very proud that the council stood strong and supported that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Lundberg.
So coastal resilience is, we are on the front lines of that, obviously, because we are a coastal community. And we also can determine through, we can determine what the impacts are as the sea levels continue to rise. We see them periodically when we have storm surges and the like. We know where the vulnerable places are in terms of our roads. Those are things that we can plan for and that we can identify right now. I'm more concerned with the immediate effect of weather impacts on the being able to be first responders to people who are in need. For instance, when we have storm surges and the roads are covered with water, which way do we go to get to the hospital? Do we have that plan in place? We start with things like that we can actually do without a lot of cost, but some very thoughtful planning. Then we go to the next step of planning for coastal resilience. What happens when the sea levels continue to rise? And it's just not the flooded road down by the Riverdale Mills. It's something more. It's Rogers Street being underwater. That's the kind of planning that I would advocate for and lead, so that we have a plan that is ultimately affordable to our citizens.
Thank you. Mr. Verga.
Sure. I'm just going to go back to the surplus question just real quick. Again, not sitting in the mayor's office, you wouldn't understand. But if you read the report from our recent bond rating, which was AA again, they like when we have surpluses and we have just the right amount. That being said, as far as sustainability goes, as we know, some people still think it's a hoax. Whether you believe it's man-made or it's natural, it's there. So I don't care who started it. Here we are dealing with it. And the first thing I did, one of the first things when I became mayor, was to create and hire a sustainability coordinator position. And that person, now we're on our second one, works day and night in their job, looking for grants and finding ways to make us more resilient and more energy efficient. They have put a lot of work into our buildings, weatherizing them with new weather stripping, new windows, mini splits, things like that to make it more efficient. It's important to understand also that solar panels are not the answer, because it's a two-way flow of electricity. And without the approval of National Grid, we cannot put panels on a roof. We just won't be able to activate them, because they will not let us send the surplus power back to the grid. We have a process that we have to go through, and our sustainable coordinator is working closely with them, which we do frequently, to try to get some on the library, on the two solar-ready schools, and on other buildings. But it's not as simple as let's spend the money and put it on the roof. because the grid has the final veto power, and so far that's where we've been at is veto. So we have to look forward. We don't have the billions and billions of dollars that it will take to create infrastructure that's going to hold back the tides. But what we're doing locally is trying to reduce our carbon footprint and doing what we can to make our cities, streets more resilient. Um, Gloucester, most of downtown, especially in the Rochester area, is filled. When the settlers got here, was ocean. So Mother Nature will win in the end. So we have to work collaboratively and find creative ways and seek funding to do some of this because it's not coming out of the Proposition 2.5% increase we can put on our taxpayers every year. It's going to
Thank
take
you.
billions and billions more.
Mr. Worthley.
Yes. So, firstly, solar panels are not the only solution. So I appreciate that. And we have made some progress in this regard. I also thank the mayor for supporting the sustainability coordinator because that position has made a difference. But it's not enough because there are more things we can do to reduce our carbon footprint and also to set an example for residents and business owners to do the same. I want to go back to part of this emergency preparation, which I think Mr. Lundberg raised, is unfortunately we lost our emergency shelter. I don't blame the mayor for this because it was done before while he was in the city council, but he supported keeping the Fuller School property, and we lost that. We had an emergency shelter there. We don't have one right now. So if we were to have the kind of emergency that people need to seek shelter, we need to identify a place, and we need to make sure people know where that is.
Thank
The
you.
last thing, okay. Thank you.
And Ms. Verga.
Sure. We do have now an emergency management coordinator, which is a new position. So we are drawing up plans, actually they've already in draft form, and just to let people know where to go and how to do it. But we are vulnerable, and you folks in Rockport, Bob, have it a little worse than we do. But this is a big question, a lot bigger than Cape Ann. And if Washington still is not recognizing it as a real problem, it's going to be a little bit harder to find funding to actually find relief for the cities and towns along the coastline.
Thank you. And we don't even have trash pickup.
Did we miss me in my 30 seconds?
I
think we
did, yes.
Yeah. So I'll use my 30 seconds to say the answer to the issue of doing something about this, just to say it's going to cost us billions and billions and therefore it's out of reach, is an insufficient and inadequate answer. There are plenty of answers of things we can do, especially when it comes to public safety. It's wonderful to do the windows in the schools. It's wonderful to put solar panels on, but we don't have a public safety plan. And that's the most important thing to do as the ocean creeps up on us. And that's what I'm talking about. It doesn't cost billions and billions. It may someday, but to say billions and billions and then we stop planning, that's not acceptable.
And I'll try to signal you when there's about 5 seconds left in that additional time. That should help us a little bit. Okay, let's talk about the economy, and we're going to start with Mr. Verga, Mr. Worthley, and then Mr. Lundberg. Gloucester's economy is reliant on traditional fishing and maritime economy, arts, and culture, as well as a growing life sciences economy. How would you propose to balance these competing interests on the future of Gloucester's waterfront, and what creative ideas do you have to attract and retain non-residential uses?
Right. Well, along the waterfront, especially not specifically the DPA, it's got to be non-residential. That's the key component. When the harbor plan was in the works, which started before I became mayor and was recently approved by the state, one of the considerations that was kicked around was, should we pull the I4C2, the parcel we own, out of the DPA? And it was determined that that would be very unfair to all of the private property owners around. And as we know, the state never really fully delivered, excuse me, on the promise of the DPA. And it may work in New Bedford where they own about 90% of their waterfront, and we own far less than even 10% of our waterfront. But fishing, I've said over and over, is not dead. It is just different. That's the reason my grandfather came here well over 100 years ago. And it's the identity of our city. whether people want to believe it or not, that is a key attractant of tourists to come and see an actual working waterfront. Biotech, especially GMGI, has been a boon to this city. And not only are they putting out dozens of qualified students every year to go into the field, but they're providing a high-tech business, something that's really been a shot in the arm to Gloucester, and something that we can use and leverage to make our blue economy even greater. So it's always hard to balance those things, whether it's the traditional blue economy with fishing, or whether it's the new marine biotechnology economy. But we do have to work together because fishing is not going anywhere. But we have a limited waterfront that's ours, and we have to work with our community development department to try to attract new businesses, which is why we are in the process of interviewing and hiring soon an economic development coordinator. So there's Gloucester's 400 years of history is not going anywhere, and we are going to make sure that for the next 400 years, fishing is part of the equation as well as high tech and biotech.
Thank you, Mr. Worthley.
Thank you very much. As I mentioned, I worked for the Chamber of Commerce as the Economic Development Manager for 4 years and the Director of the Salem Chamber of Commerce for 2, and developed great connections with different agencies in the state that can help us. There's a Seaport Bond Council. My understanding is that we haven't had a presence at that in the last 3.5 years. I'm not sure why we don't attend those meetings, but we should be there. When there was a bridge project that was going to be done at the Blumen Canal, and it really was going to interfere with the scallop season, I went to bat, as did former Mayor Sufathi Romeo, with fisheries, state marine fisheries, and we lobbied hard to get them to postpone the work until November so the scallopers could come here. I mean, not all of them are from Gloucester. Some are from Gloucester, some aren't, and dock and use the canal as such. That's a multi-million-dollar difference by having that kind of advocacy. And I'm just a city councilor, right? I'm not the mayor, but I knew that was happening. I found out about it. I connected the right people and lobbied hard to get that changed. As far as creative ideas for our harbor, as the mayor says, fishing is not going anywhere. Our heritage is fishing. It's not just that tourists come here. It's still a vibrant business for the people who are doing it, but it's not all encompassing like we had years ago. And there were 600 Gloucester residents who all had boats in the harbor. So we need to look at things like GMGI, continue growing that. But people might not know this. In 2004, the Coastal Zone Management Office removed most of the eastern side of our harbor, East Main Street, out of the DPA, the designated port area. What we promised to do is we were also going to change the local zoning to take it out of the marine industrial area. What this really means is we have landlocked pieces of property that are dependent on waterfront access that they don't have. And so we need to take an aggressive approach to change some of those parcels to either extensive business or neighborhood business to spur the kind of things that are going to be investments in our harbor and in our waterfront. The dollar we get from the tax dollar we get from a business only costs us about 84 cents in services. A dollar we collect in residential taxes costs about $1.25. So that will grow our budget and grow our jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Lundberg.
Yeah, so with the waterfront, again, we have a unique asset here in Gloucester, and that is access to the water. There's obviously a recreational part of that, but the industrial part of it is really, really important to our town. The designated port area, which is the state law, and the marine industrial zoning, which is our city law, are designed to protect the fishing industry, primarily to provide them access so they have a place to tie up the boats and to land the fish that's necessary. And so we are able, through those mechanisms, to provide below market rates for the fishing industry, for the industrial part of boating, to be able to be competitive in the world. We need to understand that competitive drive, and also the biological part, which is that the fish have gone to different places. That's why our fishing industry has changed. We are a significant lobster industry now. We also need places on the waterfront to process the fish and the catch. But we also have opportunities to amend and change those two protective laws, DPA and marine industrial, to enhance the rest of the Gloucester's businesses that can take advantage of being water at the side of the water. One other thing that's really important is we have 3 huge occupiers of waterfront space, the 2 cold storages in Gorton's. None of them are water dependent anymore. There are no fish coming in by boat or going out by boat, in by truck, out by truck. Someday those properties will no longer fit the business needs of their owners. And we should have a plan now as to what should replace those factories on our waterfront that are no longer water dependent.
Thank you. Additional time for Mr. Verga?
Sure. The name of the organization that was mentioned was incorrect. It's actually the Seaport Economic Council, of which I'm a member, and we have met more frequently than the last 4 years. And as a matter of fact, we'll be seeking a grant to do some work to our city-owned piers down at St. Peter's Park. And that we've, as a matter of fact, since I've been mayor, we've had about 112 grants that have come to the city to the tune of over $9.5 million. So we are actively engaged in all efforts to take money from other people's pockets, whether it's the federal or state government or other private entities. So that's what we're doing, and we're going to continue to do.
Thank you. Mr. Worthley?
Yes, I would just challenge you to prove the attendance showing you at these meetings, this quarterly meetings that the mayor is required to go to. But nonetheless, back to the main issue, which is we have property owners who would like to try to do more with their property, but there's lots of regulations. And as Paul mentioned, the regulations are designed to preserve places for fishermen to dock. There's a challenge if you're a bank and you're saying, okay, this business model might not make sense because there aren't as many boats docking as there used to be. So I think we should make it so that those business owners have a few more options. And that might mean a little more biotech. It might mean more restaurants. It might mean more uses that include fishing, but also give them the creativity to be able to do something different with their property that is also inclusive for the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have time. Oh, yes, Mr. Lundberg.
Okay. So in my travels, as I'm running for office, I visited with the Northeast Seafood Coalition, and on the wall of their office, they have this old poster. It's got a fishing boat on it, and it says, "Gloucester fishermen feed the world." And when I was talking to Vito and Jackie about that, I said, you know, we may not technically feed the world anymore, but that is our iconic image. That is something we can market. That is something of great value to us. And the city needs to be more aware of how business works, how to use things like that to support our businesses.
Thank you. Okay, I've been told by our timekeeper that we have time for one more question. And it's going to be a warm-up for further debates that you will be attending. And it's about housing. And the order will be Mr. Worthley, Mr. Lundberg, and Mr. Verga. Many businesses in our community are struggling to hire and retain workers because there simply isn't enough affordable housing available nearby. How would you work with city boards and developers to remove barriers and create more workforce housing options?
Thank you. I think it'd be really helpful for people to know my heart and where it started. When I was a junior in high school, Rosemary Banks was the head of the National Honor Society, and she took me, I was the only student that volunteered this day, and we went to Lawrence to build a house with Habitat for Humanity. It's amazing when you get enough volunteers working together that we could build a house in a day. I continued my volunteerism with them for 3 more homes, one in Lynn, one in Ipswich, and one in Gloucester. And one of the joys of that was that we got to meet the families that moved into these. And I think from a compassionate standpoint, we all agree we can do a lot better on creating more affordable housing for Gloucester residents. When I got on the city council 20 years ago, my first stint, I created the Zoning Ordinance Review Task Force, and a number of volunteers stepped up to serve on that. And the main thrust was a joint order. Abdullah Kambadi and I co-signed it. And the thrust was, what other barriers in our zoning code to affordable housing? It took a while, And after about 4 years of reviewing every line, they put forward a number of changes which were approved by the planning board and the city council to remove some restrictions. Now, that doesn't mean it solved the problem, but it meant that I'm committed to working towards that. Last year, I put forward a simple zoning change that said, if you're changing the use but not changing the structure, you don't need to get relief on the structure. If you're not going up, why do you need to get a height exception? That failed the council, 1 in favor, 7 opposed, and the mayor did not support it like he said he would. But nonetheless, I'm committed to this. What can we do? Boston's got a great program right now where they have challenged architects to create designs for accessory dwelling units. And then they take those designs and they now identify, instead of just waiting for people to say, I need some more housing, they go into each home that could qualify for an accessory dwelling unit. And I want to do this with our city planning department, our building inspector's office, and our local bankers and say, okay, we've got design, we've got builders, and we've got money. Let's see if we can get accessory dwelling units built rapidly. This could add income to people on their property, and it could add some affordable housing in Gloucester. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lundberg.
So I am quite passionate about housing. I was involved in the Housing for All Gloucester when it first started. And my time on the planning board taught me about the tools that we have. Worker retention because of housing is a definite issue, but it demonstrates the real issue, which is that middle income group of people, our seniors, our families with children in school, artists, city workers, who need that housing that's somewhere in the $400,000 to $700,000 range of cost. We've had a really good start on that with this the zoning that the state required us to do, and a lot of people didn't like the fact the state required us. But the fact is, we took that opportunity and we turned it into something really, really good. That opportunity now allows our existing homeowners to expand their residences with the kind of housing I just described. That will go a partial way to solving the problem of worker housing as well as housing for that very important part of our demographics. So I would continue to go down that path and heartily support that kind of zoning and changes, with the specific understanding that it has to be consistent with the neighborhood character. And one of the things that I learned early on the planning board is you have to take everybody's opinion into account to make sure that we keep that neighborhood character just the way we want it. But we can do both things. Both things are possible. And we can create more housing in that middle range and still maintain our neighborhood character.
Thank you. Mr. Verga.
Sure. The thing about affordable housing is it's not easily solvable, or it would have been solved. I think we can all recognize that, but we have to make the efforts. And one thing, before I came to office, the city was working under the last housing production plan. And so when I came to office, there were about 9 recommended zoning amendments that had come through the planning board. They went through the city council. I think maybe 3 passed. Some of them were, I thought, a bit out there. Some of them were pretty reasonable. I was surprised they were shot down. And we have to really consider the fact that these are volunteers that are on the planning board and the zoning board, and they do take quite a beating. Any project, I'd say most projects are pretty controversial to somebody. So it's a difficult thing for them to go into those meetings as a volunteer and take the blowback they get. So just a little plug for them and all the work they do. So what we're doing now, and just one thing to keep in mind, affordable housing, the area median income, because we're in the Boston rankings, is for a family of 4, it's $164,000. So if you have a home that's at 80%, an affordable home at 80%, you're looking at still needing $132,000 is to qualify for that. So we're looking at real affordable housing projects. We've funded it through our Affordable Housing Trust, which I had reconstituted. They had not enough members for a quorum when I took office. Got it reconstituted with a varied group of people who know what they're doing. We funded it. They put money towards over $1.5 million of ARPA money towards multiple projects throughout the city, which created about 70 plus units. And now we're working closely with Harbor Light Homes on a project at the old nursing home along Washington Street toward the hospital that's going to result in about 65 or so affordable houses, 55 rental and another 7 sale units for sale townhouses. at about 60 to 30% AMI and a 70% preference in the lottery for Gloucester people. So that's the kind of work that my administration has been behind, trying to create real affordable housing that's going to impact real people like our teachers, our firefighters, our police, people who are making a decent wage, but not quite enough to pay the market rate for housing and rentals, sales and rentals in the city.
Thank you. Mr. Worthley.
Thank you. We will not solve the affordable housing problem by building market rate housing. There's an old saying, we get what we zoned for, and we are zoned for, in some cases, 40,000 square feet, 80,000 square feet. And when you buy a property that size, to justify the loan on that, you have to build a house that is really expensive. We really need to take a closer look at our entire zoning code again and say, where does it make sense to build affordable housing? I have developed a relationship with Executive Office of Livable Communities. Ed Augustus is the commissioner. And he told me that Gloucester could get out of the Boston area AMI, area median income, and have our own AMI. Very simply, we need to apply for that. I would do that if I were mayor. Let me also tell you that there's a tax break that we can give to people who build affordable housing. It's called a TIE, tax incremental exemption. Much like a TIF, you could do that for residential. There's a program right there that we can say, let's enact that and incent people to build affordable housing. And that would open them up to state tax credits up to $2 million per property in state exemptions. These are things that I'm happy to implement when I'm mayor.
Thank you. And Mr. Lundberg.
Right. So affordable housing is really tough. It's really hard, but it's not too hard. It's not too hard to handle. There are ways to do it. One of the ways that our government is structured is that the planning board passes or recommends the ordinances and the city council plans them. There's a third role, the third role that's been missing. There needs to be an advocate so that the volunteers who do this work have somebody who has their back. That advocate is the voice of the mayor who says, ladies and gentlemen, this is good for our community, and here's why it's not going to damage our community, and here's how we can do it in a good way. And be the advocate and get out in front of these controversial issues because they work and we can make them understood.
Thank you. Mr. Berga.
Yeah, I would say urge people to take a look at those 9 amendments and see who voted no. Anyway, that being said, 3A, for instance, that was so controversial and people thought it was going to be basically a free pass for developers. It's important to note that to date, 0 permit applications have been pulled as a result of 3A because the developers did not see it as something delicious. But who will eventually come forward are the people who own a single or 2 family who might want to add that unit for their parents who are aging and they want them to age in place, or for their kids who can't afford to buy a house on their own. So that's the thing that we need to keep in mind is it's not just about going after controversies. It's about trying to give people a full education of what it really means. In the 3A battle, the narrative became fact versus fiction. In the end, fact won, but there's still work to do.
Thank you. I think I've covered everybody on this question. So we have time for one more, but we won't have any additional time. We'll just answer the question and be done with it. And it's going to be, if I'm correct, Mr. Verga, followed by Mr. Worthley, followed by Mr. Lundberg. Guys up for one more?
Sure.
Sure.
Here we go. All right. It's about permitting. Do you feel the current permitting process strikes a healthy balance between protecting existing businesses and residents while also encouraging and welcoming new people, new businesses? What, if anything, would you do to improve and streamline the city's permitting process?
Right. Well, thank you. The streamlining happened before I was mayor. I'll give credit where credit is due because it went into an online system, which really makes a difference. Because prior to that, people were running all over the place trying to figure out where to pull their permits. And now it's online and much easier. The public input has got to be there. So we have to understand that, as I just said earlier, every project's controversial to somebody, and we can't take the voice away from the people. But we can't be the city that's automatically going to say yes to projects, but we can't be a city that's automatically going to say no to projects. We should allow people to come in, developers or individuals, with a plan, and if it's a good plan, then the zoning board or the planning board will review it, and if they feel it's good for Gloucester, then they will recommend it. So if it's good for the developer to make some money, it's good for the city, then we should have an open mind and let people have their say before we push through a project. But permitting is there for a reason, to give people that say and to make sure that everything is done by the book. And we're the ones within state guidelines who create that book. So I think that Gloucester can be a welcoming place for new development, but we have to really keep in mind that sometimes there's a lot of pushback from abutters, deservedly so in some cases. But we have to be there to make the case and get behind the projects that we feel are a good thing for this city.
Thank you. Mr. Wordley.
Bob, I'd like to separate these into two separate issues. One is discretionary permitting, zoning board, planning board, city council. There's always going to be a public hearing process. When I chaired the planning development committee many, many years ago, I would have the hearing at the committee level, and you'd be amazed. You'd have one side of the room would be the people who are against it, the other side would be the attorney and the developer, and we get them talking. And sometimes the opposition would say, we don't want a 5-family house next to us because we don't want the beeping of that truck that comes in at 5 o'clock in the morning or leaves at 5 o'clock in the morning. There could be that there's a light that shines in my bedroom window. We would mitigate those by having dialogue, which was really helpful. And those neighbors will be supporting those changes once that dialogue happened. As far as the permitting that happens at Pond Road or the city clerk's office, the health department, we can absolutely streamline that. Why is it that you go to the building inspector's office to get a permit and you need to get a timestamp at City Hall, and you drive across the city, hope to find a place to park, and obviously the clerk's office is a keeper of record, but in 2025, there's no reason why they can't stamp it there and create a PDF that goes directly to the planning department, to the city clerk's office. That would save time, and time is money. So if I'm a homeowner, my contractor's tied up driving across the city in the middle of summer, hoping to get to City Hall before they close, I may have cost myself a day on getting that project done. And sometimes the project might be something as simple as getting a dumpster permit. You got to go from Pond Road in East Gloucester to City Hall to get a stamp. We can do better, and we will do better. So I think we can certainly consolidate this, have it one-stop shop, all in one place, and work with our contractors to find ways to make those things more efficient. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lundberg.
So permitting is one of those necessary evils that can become very bureaucratic, but it does serve a very important purpose. It is the tool that we have to preserve our neighborhood character and to preserve the way that we think the city should grow. So it's very useful. It obviously can be streamlined and all the bureaucratic stuff can be taken care of. And I agree with the other two speakers that that's something we should do. But do it. You know, we have to just decide we're going to do it and then put that process in place. For those of you who have been in office for a while, you could ask the question, how come we haven't done that yet? If you have the ideas are fairly straightforward. So let's get together and do that. But remember, the permitting is to give voice to all of the people so that we can continue to control the character of our neighborhoods and our city, but without giving unnecessary vetoes to progress.
Thank you. I will give you all a moment to prepare for your closing statements. The order will be Mr. Lundberg, Mr. Woodley, and Mr. Verga. And while I'm giving you that few moments, I would like to thank you all, candidates, for taking the time to prepare for this, and more importantly, for running for office. It's very easy for people to complain about things, and it's something else to actually go out there and want to take the time and the effort and face the criticism to try to do the job. So I thank you all. I've known you all for a long period of time, and I think the city is fortunate to have such great candidates running for the office of mayor. I'd like to thank 1623 Studios and the Chamber of Commerce, particularly Colleen Murdoch sitting here to my right. We had to pivot greatly from the original plan for this debate, and they were able to turn it around very quickly. And thank you to the Gloucester IT department, to Brian to my far right for helping make this a very flawless evening in terms of how it's running. And whenever you're ready, Paul, we'll hear from you. And
Well,
you
thank
have
you.
2 minutes each.
Yes, and thank you very much, Bob, for your participation in this. We really appreciate you coming over the border and helping us out here. So, in my closing statement, I would just like to touch on a couple of things that we've talked about already tonight. My view of our city is that we are at a crossroads. We are at a very serious point in time where we have to make serious decisions. I've highlighted the two things that I think are the most serious: school quality and excellence, and housing. And we've talked about housing so far. We haven't talked about the schools. Let's talk about the schools first. We suffered a totally avoidable and unnecessary strike against our schools last year, which pitted the teachers and the parents against one another, and damaged the trust that that's required to have a good educational process. And when I say avoidable, I will explain exactly what I mean. I'm an old labor relations hand, and I know how collective bargaining works. If you can settle a contract on the 15th day of a strike, you can settle it before the strike starts. You have the wherewithal to settle it. And if you lack the ideas or the will to settle it, that's a leadership thing. And we showed a definite lack of leadership. We allowed the school committee to go bargain with the teachers without sufficient backup from the city, and I will say from the mayor. And that's why the city charter says the mayor should be a member of the school committee. The schools are a very special department. They are different than DPW and the fire department. They are the essence and the soul of our city, and we owe it to those students when they come out of the schools to be competitive in the world, competitive to get a job, or competitive to go on to higher education. We failed them with that strike, and that strike was totally unnecessary, and I stand by that. And that was a lack of leadership. The housing part of it, we've talked about that. There are many solutions, but that too is the core of our city. We have to be able to have housing opportunities for that middle range of people who make us different from other coastal cities, and the rising property prices are making that difficult. So I, as mayor, will lead on those two issues, and I will listen to all of you who have those same concerns, but find it hard to articulate. That's what I will do as mayor, and thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Worthley.
Yes, first, thank you to the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Bob. Thank you to Mayor Verger and Paul Lundberg for a spirited debate and discussion on issues. I think it's really helpful for the community to hear us speaking and having real dialogue. So thank you. Thank you to Colleen for pulling it together, and the city IT department as well. My name is Jeff Worthley. I'm a single dad, father of two children, both in the Gloucester High School. They're very involved in the arts programs, theater arts, and the music program. I'm glad, Mr. Lundberg, that you brought up the unnecessary teacher strike, in the sense that it was unnecessary that we even got there. But it was necessary for teachers to strike, given the lack of communication and progress that the school committee and the mayor were making. I hadn't planned to speak on this, but I appreciate that you raised it. There was a lot of things said and done during that strike that is demoralizing, currently still demoralizing to teachers and paraprofessionals, talking about that they're only part-time workers. They work full-time. Talking about how, someone said, well, they're married to wealthy men. They don't need the money. This kind of dialogue was unhealthy and unnecessary. I don't blame the teachers for going on strike, because there was no other solution at that point. But Mr. Lundberg, I would go one step further. I'm a single father, self-employed, and I was home with my kids. And what did we do? We went to Dunkin' Donuts and bought coffee and tea and munchkins and donuts and stood with the teachers. And then we brought them lunch. And then we brought them dinner at West Parish School late at night. And we did everything we could to show our support, not just in words, but in actions. And my hope is that the camaraderie that was built from there and the trust that was built from there can leverage some of the healing that's necessary. I've been an advocate for educators, as everyone else here as well, but I'm also willing to put my feet in the ground next to them and stand with them. And I took arrows and bullets for doing it, and it was the right thing to do, and I would do it again. There will not be another strike from a union in Gloucester if I'm mayor, because we will communicate early and often, and we will have the similar values, and we'll use real numbers. We're not going to tell them that there's a $7 million deficit when there's a $4 million surplus. We're not going to charge them for our own public relations firm that was hired to demean them It's absolutely despicable that we're forcing them to pay for a public relations firm that the mayor hired to demean teachers. And so those days are over, and let the healing begin, because there's a long ways to go before we can get back to the days where we really value teachers for the hard work they do each and every day. My name is Jeff Worthley. I provide solutions and I implement them, and I'm looking forward to your vote on September 16th to be your next mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Verga.
Thanks, Bob, and thanks to the chamber for being so flexible with me, especially after my COVID diagnosis, and it's a tough time. But here we are, and I'm glad we got to do it. So I'm running for election, for mainly because I love the city, I love the job, and I'm good at it, and I've got more to offer. So when I was growing up, my father used to say, "Don't mess with a good thing," and that's what I think we've got going on at City Hall. So I'm asking you to vote Verga and stay the course. So the job is about building and keeping a great team and knowing that you're usually not the smartest person in the room and doing the best for the people of Gloucester as a whole and doing the most good for the most people over the long haul. So what does that mean to the people who are watching? What have I delivered to you, the Gloucester residents? A lot that's making your life better is highly visible. We've seen improvements, major improvements to our streets and thoroughfares, our buildings and institutions, our services, and our parks and green space. Beach traffic is no longer a headache. It's a lot less conspicuous as I put record investments into our school budget. We've completed major upgrades to the schools and expanded the vocational program this year, and it's all while maintaining a balanced city budget. So during my tenure, Gloucester's become more climate resilient, more energy efficient, veterans park for free. I reconstituted the Affordable Housing Trust, infused it with funding so they can actually deliver on their mission. But it's obvious there's more to do. As I mentioned earlier, we are interviewing right now for an development coordinator who should be online before the end of this month, and it's going to be key to all of our businesses, large and small. So we're actively considering good options for better parking access. We're petitioning the state for public use for eligible private road repair, and I have a goal to raise the city's bond rating from AA to AA plus. So I think we've got a good thing going, Gloucester. So let's stay the course. And I want to thank you and thank you in advance when you vote Verga next week on Tuesday.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. And to the city of Gloucester, good evening.
Thank you.
Good night.